sound effects. So this story is called The Unfortunate Lily Maid. Anne and Diana had spent most of their playtime that summer on and about the pond. The two girls learned to row themselves a boat in the little flat-bottomed dory of Mr. Barry's. It was Anne's idea that they dramatize Elaine. They had studied Tennyson's poem in school, and Anne was devoured by a secret regret that she had not been born in Camelot. Anne and her friends discovered that if the flat was pushed off from the landing place, it would drift down with the current under the bridge and to the far shore. "Well, I'll be Elaine," said Anne. "We must cover the barge all its length in blackest satin. That old black shawl of your mother's will be just the thing, Diana." The black shawl having been procured, Anne spread it over the flat and then lay down on the bottom with closed eyes and hands folded over her breast. "Oh, she really does look dead," whispered Ruby earnestly, watching the still, white little face. "It makes me feel frightened, girls." "Ruby, you shouldn't talk like this," said Anne severely. "It spoils the effect. Jane, you arrange this. It's silly for Elaine to be talking when she's dead." Jane rose to the occasion. Cloth of gold for coverlet there was none, but an old piano scarf of yellow crepe was an excellent substitute. A white lily was not attainable, but the effect of a tall blue iris placed in one of Anne's folded hands was all that could be desired. "Now she's all ready," said Jane. "We must kiss her quiet brows, and Diana, you say, 'Farewell, sister, forever.' And Ruby, you say, 'Farewell, sweet sister,' both of you as sorrowfully as you can. Now push the flat off." The flat was accordingly pushed off, scraping roughly over an old embedded stake in the process. Diana and Jane and Ruby only waited long enough to see it caught in the current and heading for the bridge before scampering up through the woods to receive the Lily Maid. For a few minutes, Anne, drifting slowly down, enjoyed the romance of her situation to the full. Then, something happened not at all romantic. The flat began to leak. In a very few moments, it was necessary for Anne to scramble to her feet, pick up her cloth of gold coverlet, and towel of blackest satin, and gaze blankly at a big crack in the bottom of her barge through which the water was literally pouring. It did not take long to realize that she was in a dangerous plight. At this rate, the flat would fill and sink before it could drift to the far shore. Anne gave one gasping little scream. Later, she admitted that it seemed like years while the flat was drifting to the bridge. She was terribly frightened, and the water rising every moment. "I prayed most earnestly, but I didn't shut my eyes to pray, for I knew the only way God could save me was to let the flat float close enough to one of the bridge piles for me to climb up on it. But I had to do my part by watching out. I just said, 'Dear God, please take the flat close enough to a pile and I'll do the rest,' over and over again. Under the circumstances, you don't think much about making a flowery prayer. But mine was answered, for the flat bumped right into a pile for a minute, and I flung the scarf and the shawl over my shoulder and scrambled up. And there I was, clinging to that slippery pile with no way of getting up or down. It was a very unromantic position." Ruby, Jane, and Diana, awaiting the flat on the far shore, saw it disappear before their very eyes, and had not a doubt that Anne had gone down with it. Then, shrieking at the top of their voices, they started on a frantic run up through the woods. The minutes passed by. Each seemed like an hour to the unfortunate Lily Maid. Why didn't somebody come? Where had the girls gone? Suppose they had fainted one and all? Anne looked at the wicked green depths below her, wavering with long, oily shadows, and shivered. Then, just as she thought she could no longer endure the ache in her arms and wrists another moment, Gilbert Blythe came rowing under the bridge in a dory. Gilbert glanced up and, much to his amazement, beheld a little, white, scornful face looking down upon him with big, frightened, but also scornful eyes. "Aunt Shirley, how on earth did you get there?" he exclaimed. Without waiting for an answer, he pulled close to the pile and extended his hand. There was no help for it. Anne, clinging to Gilbert Blythe's hand, scrambled down into the dory where she sat dribbled and furious in the stern, with her arms full of dripping shawl and wet satin. "What has happened, Anne?" asked Gilbert, taking up his oars. "We were playing Elaine," explained Anne frigidly, without even looking at her rescuer. "I had to drift down to Camelot in the barge. I mean the flat. The flat began to leak, and I climbed out onto the pile. The girls went for help. Will you be kind enough to row me to the landing?" Gilbert obligingly rowed to the landing, and Anne, disdaining assistance, sprang nimbly on the shore. "I'm very much obliged to you," she said haughtily as she turned away. But Gilbert said hurriedly, "Anne, can't we be good friends? I'm awfully sorry I made fun of your hair." For a moment, Anne hesitated. She hated Gilbert Blythe. She would never forgive him. "No," she said coldly, "I shall never be friends with you, Gilbert Blythe, and I don't want to be."